Hey, you are now locked in to Hard Reset with Juice Kastoan. Let's go.
Good morning. I am Jeuse Kastoan, and this is our reset. For today's episode 5, talking about love. Yeah, talking about love. Um, but for this episode, we're talking about love for oneself. Um, for me, when I was younger, it never was a thought, and then like when I was a kid. Then once I got to my teenagers to probably my no, probably from my teenagers till about my 30s, mid 30s. I can't say that, I necessarily loved myself. I never really, I didn't care to um, love myself because I was too busy focused on goals and aspirations. So, in the end, I can't really say that I love myself. Now, over time, I learned that, I don't tick the same way that I used to. When I was younger, I used to go to the gym and do 2 days and play basketball and lift weights and things of that nature. And the way that I got better, I didn't necessarily talk to myself nicely. I would be very hard on myself. Be like, why'd you do this? You need to do it like this. Come on. You need to shoot this way. You need to change your form and have your hand follow through like this. When you dribble, don't do it like this. You gotta do it like this. That's stupid. Why are you shooting like that? Fuck, why'd you miss that? Okay, since you missed that, now we gotta hit 5 in a row, 6 in a row. Um, Things like that. I used to do that. And I used to actually be able to operate in that way. That's how I got so good at things that I did. Whether it was work, whether it was basketball, I would just do repetition and be hard on myself and be mad when I messed something up, and I would try to do better the next time while not being nice and demeaning to myself. Um, Ever since I went to San Diego, I can say that my whole mindset reset and flipped. Um, Mentally, I no longer operate in that arena. Um, Mentally, I can't talk to myself in that way. I can't operate in that fashion because now it's more so I don't feel like it does the same effect. Um, for example, when I was younger, I was actually in the gym shooting around a lot. And I believe it was one of those nights where I used to go in like at 11, 12 o'clock in the morning and leave like at 4 or 5 after shooting for hours. And I basically wanted to do an experiment. So while I was shooting free throws, which I was pretty good at, um, I basically was like, okay, maybe I can flip this. They say if you speak negatively about what you're doing, you won't achieve whatever you're trying to achieve. So let me try speaking negatively and still make these shots. So I would tell myself at the free throw line, like, you're gonna miss. You're gonna miss. You're not gonna make it. You're gonna miss. You're not gonna make it. And this is after free throws where I'm not thinking in this manner. And when I did that, I just came to the realization that negatively really does affect you and can affect your performance. While I was telling myself that I couldn't make it, even though I felt like I was doing everything in my routine the same exact way. But when I look back at it, naturally, when you're speaking negatively, everything that you're doing, it you don't do things the same exact way, even though you feel like you are. Like there's always one small thing you do, whether it's your touch, whether it's the way you release it, you'll miss. And it's because mentally you're already telling yourself you're going to miss. So you're naturally your body's gonna mess up on the form or mess up on one of the things that you do normally on a regular basis when you're shooting that free throw. And I truly believe that's how life operates as well. If you keep talking to yourself negatively and how you're not good and you're not going to be able to do this, you're not going to have the confidence to do things, you're not going to believe you can do things, therefore, whatever you're trying to do, you won't do it. Or you just won't achieve as much as you would like to because mentally you're not allowing yourself to be able to do that. So I truly believe being nice to yourself and just being like, it's okay. We didn't get it this time, but we'll get it next time. Okay, where do we make a mistake? Let's try to fix that, and we'll do better next time. Talking to yourself in that manner, I believe that is the best way to operate when you're trying to improve something. And loving myself, um, the difference between pre San Diego and post San Diego. Pre San Diego, I was still a achiever, I was still a high achiever, but that was because though I may not have liked myself, I was confident in my ability. So even though I didn't like who I was, possibly, I still like the fact. I don't even know if it's like. I think it's I was just confident in the fact that I knew my abilities enough to know that I could do great things. So I was still able to achieve great things even with not fully loving myself. And then post San Diego, it got to the point to where I still believe I can do those things and still confident in my ability to do things. It's just that now I'm more caring towards myself and I love myself more and understanding who I am now and who I was. So, it doesn't matter what happens, it doesn't matter who says what, I still I still love myself. Now, I still make mistakes here and there. I'm not perfect. And sometimes I'll be like, damn, why'd I do that? That was annoying. I shouldn't have did that. I should have handled it in this way. But after that, I'm still like, it's okay. I'll just deal with it and face it in the morning and uh, figure out the best recourse to deal with it. And I just leave it at that. Um, that's all I try to do. I just try to mitigate whatever's going on and try my best to just improve every day. Now, as a father, um, I'm very hard on myself still. I love myself. I am hard on myself, and if there's a mistake that happens, I'm like, why the hell did not see that coming? Why didn't I know to do this? Or why didn't I prepare better in this way? And things of that nature. But I also know that I'm still learning, and I'm a new dad. This isn't something that I've just been doing for my whole life. So there's going to be mistakes here and there. So um, the best way to handle it for me so far is just to do your best, and then whenever there's a mistake or something doesn't go as planned, take note of it, and then properly adjust for the situations coming ahead so you can prevent it from happening the next time. Um, that's just how I feel about that. You know, as a leader, I've been a senior machine operator. I've been a night shift superintendent or supervisor, however you want to say it. I've been a shift lead. Um, in the Navy, I was an LPO or ALPO, but I did lead at one point whenever the LPO went on vacation. Um, and then now, like being assistant store manager, I still am hard on myself as well, even though I've been better at it. And, being a leader, you want everyone under you to thrive. And one of the things that I focus on is just trying to treat everyone well and using empathy, and sometimes it's not perfect. Trying to balance, being empathetic towards others and helping them do well while also maintaining the company line and making sure they get the results that they want in the company. Um, but you know, you do your best. I try to give everyone the tools that they need and be there for everyone and teach them if they need to learn something. And that's the main thing I just try to do. Try to make sure everyone is able to do their best. So at least has everything so they can do their best and try to achieve what they can during the shift, I guess you could say. And I've made mistakes still, working as a leader and leading people, and been at times where I feel like maybe I should have handled it differently. Maybe I should have did this or did that. But in the end, you're not gonna be perfect. So you try your best and you just keep it pushing. There was one time when I was in the Navy, and I was getting word from other sailors that were working there that one of the other sailors weren't doing too well um, mentally, and that they were worried about him. Um, and this is when I was LPO because the actual LPO was gone, so I was leading the clinic or whatever. And I was like, okay, well, in this situation, there's certain protocols you have to follow, but mainly you want to take care of it and make sure everyone's okay. So I was like, all right, so how can I handle this? So the way I dealt with it, you know, I even back then, I've always been kind of hesitant about confronting people and just asking them about things. Even as a leader, still I'll do it, but I've never been comfortable doing it just because, to me it feels it feels awkward confronting someone about whether they messed up or about whether they're not feeling okay. And I mean, I actually it doesn't feel awkward to be like, "Are you doing okay? You doing all right?" But when it's a situation where you're asking them and they can have implications behind it, then it gets awkward. I can say now, as a leader, I don't mind having those tough conversations. I don't mind telling someone that they need to improve on something if they want to get a better result. I don't mind any of that. I'm ready for it. But back at that point in time, it was still kind of awkward for me. So, I went and talked to him, and he told me everything was okay, and that, there was no issue or whatever. And then, what they do is they do inspections in the rooms of the E3 and below, the seamen, the sailors who don't live out in town yet and live in the barracks. So, we did one of those inspections, and when we went there, the room was a mess. There was trash everywhere, and it the best way to describe it is when you see the room, it kind of looked like he gave up and didn't care, which could be signs of anything. It could be that he's just messy, and it also could mean that he's possibly depressed. So at that point in time, I was like, all right, we got to get him to clean this. Got to talk to him about it. So let's do that. I did that, and there's a checks and balances. So after you give someone the order that they need to do this or do that, you double back and you check on it to make sure that they did it. Whether it be a few hours later, whether it be 24 hours later, you check back. So we did that, told him that, and then even after that, he did clean it, and it did look better. But I was still hearing things from people in the clinic that they're worried about him. They don't think he's mentally doing well. So when it got severe, at that point, I had a choice. It was either I could just let it rock and see what happens and hope they pull through and they feel better, or I had to go to the chief, which is like supervisors in the Navy. Um, and I felt at that point in time that if anything was to happen or he wasn't feeling well and that God forbid he like attempted suicide or something like that, uh, it would just be bad for everybody. I mean, obviously it would be bad for me, but the idea that I didn't take the time to make sure that someone was okay and go through the right channels to verify it, and they would do something like that to themselves. I was like, okay, well, I can't stand with that. So if I need to go to the chief, then we just need to go to the chief. So went to the chief and they talked, and he reiterated, that everything's okay, and that everything's all right. We left, and then he actually talked to me about it, and it was like, yes, I've been feeling down and everything, but I've been taking care of it on my own. I went out in town. I've been taking medication. I've been prescribed medication to deal with the depression and stuff like that. So I'm actually doing okay. And I was like, okay, well, all right. Um, I took you to the chief. She said you're okay. You told you're okay. You're saying that you're taking medication now to feel better. So you know, um, we'll just go from there. And there was no issues after that once that was all taken care of. Um, to me, the main thing was, you want to make sure your people are okay and take care of your people at all times, and go through whatever challenge you need to verify and make sure that everyone's okay. I was content with the way that I handled it because I did what I had to, even if it was uncomfortable for me and for the sailor, to make sure that everything was okay. So you always want to do whatever you can um, to make sure that everyone's feeling well and that everyone's able to perform their best, and that you know everything is that the person is feeling well. I don't know how else to say it. In the Navy, when you're a LPO or an ALPO, you're no longer just doing your job. You're a supervisor, but you're no longer just a supervisor of your job. You're a supervisor of people's lives in a way. So you're basically there to make sure that your sailors are always feeling well and always ready to go at war at any time. So if they're not feeling well, if they're having mental health issues, you have to address that and you have to, tackle it. Um, if they're not working well in the job, you have to attack it and tackle it. You got to make sure they're okay. You got to make sure that their job, the work that they're doing at their job is okay. You got to make sure to take care of whatever they need to take care of, whether it be qualifications or whether they need to take certain classes. You got to make sure they do those things. You got to make sure that medically they get taken care of and get their checkups and do all these other things and get their appointments done. Um, if they're leaving, you got to make sure that they have all their paperwork ready and that they've done everything that they need to so they can transition to their new duty station well. You're basically managing not just them at work, but you're managing their career and their lives at that time period. So, um, it was a crash course, but it definitely was something that helped teach me a lot along the way as I was trying to lead and make sure everyone was feeling okay. Um, but with that being said, during the process of doing all this, I was very hard on myself, and I was like, I don't even know if I'm doing a good job as a leader. I don't even know if what I'm doing is actually working, and if I'm managing it well. I don't know. Like I really don't know if I'm leading them well, and if they actually like my leadership. Like I don't know exactly how to feel about it and how to feel about my performance, because really as a leader, there's not many ways you can really gauge how you're doing other than how they're performing at their job. But um, in the Navy, um, it's kind of harder to quantify that because besides their job, um, you're not really in charge of. You're in charge of them getting their qualifications, getting their paperwork done, but you're not really in charge of them performing well. Like everyone who performs at the job is really up to them, and you're not looked at fault if they're not doing good. I guess you could say it's strictly on them because they're not trying hard enough or something like that. So um, it was very hard for me to quantify whether I was actually doing well or not. I still love myself, but I was definitely hard on myself and didn't know how to feel. As a leader now in the private sector, working at these manufacturing companies and retail, I love myself a little way I handle things. I feel I handle things fairly. I don't feel I treat people badly, so I don't really think I feel like with my manufacturing job, my retail jobs, and just eventually going into corporate, I can actually gauge how I'm doing as a leader because I can see the performance and see how they're doing, and I can see what people are doing and how I'm affecting them. So, um, in the end, I still say, it took a while for me to love myself, and anytime I'm doing something, period, I love myself, but I'm a lot more gentle about things and less harder on myself. So, that was this episode. You know, hope you enjoyed it. Uh, to me, this is a very important subject. You always want to love yourself and you know be kind and be nice to yourself no matter what's going on because your mental health is important and you don't want that to wither away and get worse to the point where you're depressed and things of that nature. You want to try to get a grip on it as soon as possible. Um, but yeah, this is episode 5. Everybody, I hope you have a good day.
This was Hard Reset. Hopefully you got some. Leave a comment, answer the polls. Go ahead and contact me at Jeuse Kastoan on Instagram, Twitter, everything to go and holler at your boy.
Mad thoughts just going through my head. Expectations have been met.